Hello, welcome to Paint a Beautiful Picture. My name is Violet Newby. I am here to help you learn and develop great practices in raising a healthy, successful, respectable, great human being, which is the goal of all of us as parents. I really do believe that. All right, today we're going to talk about the idea of affection. Every single one of us needs affection. In fact, I can tell you that as a nurse who has taken care of women and children, it is my specialty. I understand a lot of studies that have been done. One of the most amazing ones was done in a European nation. And if you ever look this up online, you will find it, where they took a group of orphans. One set of those orphans, they met every need they had. They fed them, they changed them, they kept them warm, but they never touched them. The other ones, they gave them good care, but possibly not even to the level of the others, but they held them and they touched them and they talked with them. In the group of children where they were not held and touched, every child died. Every child. All their needs were met, but not their emotional needs, and they died without it. I want to tell you, if the only time you do anything with your child is when you feed them, or you yank their clothes on, or you wash them, or you're brushing their hair, you're not meeting your child's needs. And so, how do we show affection to a child? Well, there are a lot of ways. Okay, so let's start at the beginning of the day. I described this really briefly a while back, but I'm going to give it to you in greater detail now so that you really understand the implications of this. When my sons were babies, I held them, I nursed them, I held their hands. I'm a pretty tactile person. I spent a lot of time with them. I snuggled my son. He wasn't a good snuggler because he was so hyperactive. He was everywhere. And besides, I was pregnant. It was kind of a challenge. And then when my second son was born and a baby, a couple months old, I heard a really wise gentleman named Craig Massey who came to our church. He was in his 80s and he talked to us about life and things we needed to know. And one of the things he talked to us about was how you begin your child's day and how you're ending your child's day and the impact that has in a child's life. And I really understood what he said. I started adopting the practices he gave us. Okay, let me tell you about this kid. He was so wild. He would walk up to his mom and dad at about 7:15 every night and say, "I'm tired. I sleep now." And he'd go get in bed and go to sleep. Literally. That was my oldest son. No fight, no problem. Then we have my younger son, who had a lot of problems, who would scream, who had colic, who would not go to sleep. I'm talking at 2 and 3, the kid is still fighting every step of the way about going to bed, in spite of some of what I did. All right, all of that to say to you, I've had a lot of parenting experience, not just with my own kids, but taking care of a lot of other children. And so, experientially, I want you to know how important this is, not just ideologically. So, those first couple minutes in your child's life, when they first come to consciousness, are a big thing. If you make them get up by screaming at them down the hallway, what my nieces and nephews did to me one time, they brought a pie pan and a wooden spoon and beat the thing and like startled me awake. That was not really one of the better days of my life. um, then you're setting a pattern for that day. But if in fact you go into your child's room, put your hand on their back really gently and say, "Good morning, it's time to get up." And depending on how quickly that child wakes up, if they're the Energizer Bunny type, they're going to like boing, jump off that bed and away you go. But still, they had your touch and your gentle words to start the day. If they're a slow poke about getting up, you might need to do this 3 or 4 times. Now, let me tell you the secret about this. You can't jump out of bed and in 20 seconds get down the hall and be prepared as a parent to give your child what they need in the morning. You might actually have to get up half an hour before your child does so that your teeth are brushed, your hair is combed, you have dealt with your attitude, you've had a cup of coffee or read your Bible or whatever you need to do so that you're ready for that day. And then you can walk in there with a certain level of enthusiasm and kindness and welcome your child into the day. It really sets the tone of their entire day. We talked about that, putting a child on a pathway for that particular day. You can set them on a really good path or a kind of a lousy path. And that starts with your affection and your attitude. So let me encourage you about this. After they get up and they have however many things to do, and they have to get their, if they're going to school or preschool, they have to get their backpack ready. They have to make sure they have their lunch. You have to know where their shoes are. So remember I told you in one of the training videos how you have to be trained in order to train your child? That means you have to establish routines. Your child needs to know where their shoes are. You need to make sure that they become accustomed to putting those shoes in the same place every time so that when morning comes, instead of looking all over creation for the child's shoes and everyone's getting angry and impatient and frustrated, you know where those shoes are. You need to know where the backpack is. You need to make sure after they've finished doing their homework, it went inside of the backpack. And if you're packing a lunch, you need to make sure that that lunch is in a consistent place, on the counter, on the edge of the kitchen table, wherever it is, or maybe you actually put it into his backpack for him. Then when it's time to walk out the door, everyone could go out the door in a pretty calm, orderly, timely fashion. That's training on your part. But in that, you are actually showing affection to your child. You are demonstrating to them that you care about them, that you are interested about them. And that way, instead of dragging them out the door or screaming them out the door, you can hold their hand out the door. You can say, I'm really proud of you. You did a great job of being ready today. We're going to be able to leave 5 minutes early. That is great. I'm so proud of you. Yes, words are also a means of demonstrating affection. Okay, so you come to the end of your day, and that child has to take a bath, have everything ready for tomorrow. You already want that kid in bed because he should have been in bed a half an hour ago, and maybe he's like one of mine who's always carrying on with you and fighting you and telling you how he doesn't want to go to bed. And yes, you know that child, so do I. So that requires a bedtime routine. When you give your child a bath, do your best to be gentle. I just had a conversation with someone about how their parent really yanked their hair when they brushed it. I had one of those too. And it was far less than pleasant. And I still freak out when someone messes with my hair very much because it just was not a good experience. And it has left things with me all the way these whole 65 years later. Not very good. You want to make sure that when you're washing your child, you're gentle. I know you got to scrub them when they got mud all over them or paint or other things. I get that. I'm talking their regular daily cleansing. You can touch them gently. You can scrub their hair gently. I'll tell you a secret. One of my kids told me this. I would always lie them down in my hand. So I had the back of their hand. Then I would use my hand and just cup it over just right to here. Like this first little bit, I would sometimes have a little soap there, which was way better than traumatizing them, shoving them down into the water, having water all over their face and freaking them out. I just learned not to do that. And I told you, I wasn't a great parent in the beginning. I wasn't any good at that when they were really little. But by the time they were 3 or 4, I was really good at gently bathing them. So it is a great time to show affection to them. If you wrap them up in a towel, and I got to the place where I would throw towels into the dryer for 5 minutes before they got out of the tub, go grab the towel or have my husband bring me the towel, wrap those guys up in a really warm towel, and just snuggle them for about 5 minutes. He would take one of the boys, I would take the other one. It's a great opportunity to be affectionate. You can put oil or lotion, just something soft and soothing onto your child. It's really good to use something with lavender or lavender oil because it definitely helps them to sleep. And it's an opportunity to touch them in a very gentle and meaningful way. And it not only demonstrates, but at a very deep level, it shows them love and affection, and it causes them to have security and safety. When they go to bed, have a regular routine. I don't care if you read a story for 10 minutes. I don't care if you tell them a story. I don't care if you sing songs, but whatever you do, have a routine that every night they know what's going to happen. I'm going to get a small drink of water. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to get into my bed. Mom or dad is going to read me a story. I'm going to say my prayers. They're going to turn off the lights. I'm going to go to sleep. All human beings thrive on routine. So if you have routine, they will function the best. Oh, and they will sleep the best. Let's talk about sleep a minute. This is the nurse in me. I have to tell you this. The average child literally needs 9 hours of sleep a night. A teenager needs between 10 and 12. They're in one of the most rapid growth periods of their life. And if they don't get the sleep they need, of course, I don't have to tell you how they're cranky and unreasonable and not very productive, and they struggle to pay attention in school. They also don't grow in the same way because all of your body replenishes itself and grows while you're asleep. If your child gets adequate sleep, they won't be sick as often. They certainly won't be as cranky. They will be far more productive. They will learn more readily. And oh, this one for you is a bonus. You will have more time together as a couple or as an individual if your child is in bed getting the sleep he or she needs. What an awesome bonus, right? All right, so that's part of why you establish a routine and get your child accustomed to sleeping. In fact, here's one of your biggest targets that's going to give you information as a parent. If every single morning of your child's life is a fight, they're not getting enough sleep. If they're starting to wake up right about when you would get them up or 5 minutes before, they're getting enough sleep. Try to pay attention to those little signals that let you know. All right. So you tuck them in, you sang to them, you read them a book, you prayed with them. Now you want to touch them. You always want to have your touch be the first thing they feel in the morning and your touch be the last thing they feel before they go to sleep. A gentle, kind, affectionate touch. In Romans 12, 9 and 10, it literally tells us how we should be kind and affectionate to one another. That definitely includes our children, our family, the people who are most important to us of all. So I don't care if you just brush their hair out of their face or touch their face and tell them how much you love them and how really important they are to you and what a great time you had with them today, how much fun it was, how proud you are of them, how you're really excited about their life and things you saw happening in them today. Or listen to them while they tell you in those last few minutes what their day was like and what they thought was best. I used to ask my sons that. So, what was hardest about your day? And what was best about your day? And it was always the last thing they got to think about. What was best about their day? And then I would just hug them or rub their back. And in fact, for quite a number of years, it was my personal thing that I did with my kids. They slept in separate beds, but they were close enough I could reach them both. For probably 10 or 15 minutes, I would rub their back. So they would literally fall asleep with me rubbing their back. So I want to tell you the implications of this. When my oldest son was getting married the night before, he said, "Mama, I would really like you to do something for me." "Sure, what's that?" And he said, "Come and sit down here on the end of this couch." And I did. He had his own place then. I sat down at the end of the couch. He laid down on the couch and he put his head in my lap and he turned over and he said, "Mama, I want you to rub my back and sing me to sleep because it's the last time in my whole life you'll probably ever do this, and I want you to do this before I get married tomorrow. I have to tell you, it was awesome. I don't sleep well sitting up, but I spent that entire night with my son's head in my lap. It was a great joy as a mom. When you show affection and kindness to your children in their lifetimes when they're little, or even they get a little awkward as teenagers, but as teenagers too, we'll talk about that more, I promise you, that you establish deep bonds that will last for life. I have a son who's a great hugger, a son who's, whatever, okay, as adults. But everywhere we go, my sons hold my hand to this very day. And whenever we're together before we go to bed now, often they'll ask me, Mom, what was the hardest part of your day? Mom, what was the best part of your day? And they hug me and they'll touch me. Being affectionate gives your child strong emotional security. It gives them a very safe environment and it builds deep ties between you as a parent and as a child. And it will establish for them for the rest of their lives the capacity to show kindness and gentleness and affection to other people. So today's challenge is I want you to do an evaluation. How am I doing at showing affection to my child? Do I use the excuse, oh, I'm just not a very touchy-feely person. That's really not my thing. Do I have all these reasons why not? I mean, I'm not getting on your case. Just that's an honest assessment. Say, wow, I'm going to have to be really purposeful in learning how to be affectionate with my child because I see how important that is. Are you naturally a touchy person anyway? Okay, great. So just be purposeful with it about how you wake your child up and how you put your child to bed. And also, really and truly, look at your child because not every kid is all touchy-feely. Some kids are like, okay, mama, whatever. But if your child needs a lot of affection, if they're always reaching out and touching your arm and grabbing you and all over you, then you need to go out of your way to show great affection to that child, especially because that child probably needs a little bit more from you. So, in your challenge today, evaluate how are you doing as an affectionate parent? And I hope that you find great joy and deep satisfaction in your relationship with your children today. Thank you for watching. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.